Today I will do a review on some of the Medjugorje books I own and have read. The first one is my favourite, and in my opinion the best Medjugorje book that has been written to date. It is by one of the Visionaries, a 2016 book by Mariana Soldol, and it is called My Heartful Triumph. The book is excellent. It firstly goes through the first 7 days of the apparitions from the experiences of Mariana. Following that and her move back to Sarajevo, the difficulties she experienced with school life and life in general as someone who claimed to see the Virgin Mary, especially in a communist country. She talks about the pain of her apparitions ending and then receiving the grace of seeing Our Lady at certain times in the 1980s. She speaks about her personal life too, meeting her husband, getting married, having children, work life and moving to Medjugorje. She speaks about the secrets and says some important things like Our Lady is planning on changing the world, and if our mother has planned to defeat evil, then what do we have to fear? Her description of Our Lady is a must-read, plus what it's like during an apparition. The book is brilliant from beginning to end, an easy 10 out of 10. The second book is called Final Harvest by Wybell. Wayne wrote quite a few Medjugorje books, all of which were very good. Final Harvest was written around 2002. It is a typical Wybell book, interesting throughout and true to the messages of Our Lady. Definitely worth a read. He keeps the reader interested throughout and adds his own personal experiences and opinions from time to time. He does say in the book that he thinks the secrets will start occurring around 2006, so Wayne was a bit off with that one, but that is not to take away from what is a good read. Wayne is a good writer and the book is very interesting, definitely worth reading. The third book I will talk about is called The Apparitions of the Blessed Mother of Medjugorje by Janice Connell. It's a 1992 book that is done in interview style by Janice, obviously with the help of interpreters to get the answers from the Visionaries back to English. I really enjoy the question and answer style of book because it's easy to read and the Visionaries answer many questions that a lot of people would also like to ask, that Janice does for the reader. The only criticism was I may have read somewhere that some of the answers weren't as accurate as the Visionaries would have liked. Hence Janice made another question and answer type book later on, which we'll also get to. The book also interviews the two locutionists, who are rarely talked about these days, and lists all the messages for the parish and the world up until 1992. An excellent book overall. The fourth book is Maria and the Mother of God, a 1993 book by Heather Parsons. This book starts great. It gives a great insight into the apparitions and the opinions of visionary Maria. For a person who would be new to Medjugorje, it's a great insight and you can learn a lot about what Our Lady is asking from us at Medjugorje. As the book progresses, it focuses more and more on the war that was going on at the time in Yugoslavia. Whereas talking about these things in 1993 would have been relevant and important, reading about it now is still important from a reflection point of view, but not as relevant as it was back then. A good book to learn about what Our Lady wants from us from the viewpoint of Maria, and those who want a sad look into the pains of what was the Balkans War between 1991 and 1995, up until 1993 when the book was written. Vicar, Her Story is a 2019 book by Finbar O'Leary. It is an interview-style book similar to that of Janice Connell. This is the most disappointing Medjugorje book I have purchased. All the information in it is relatively easy to find in previous books. By calling it Vicar My Story, I thought it was going to be similar to Mariana's book talking about growing up in Yugoslavia, the difference in life before and after the apparitions and other things. Instead, it's basic question and answers you can find in other books or on the internet. A really disappointing effort from Finbar, who shouldn't be charging Australian $20 for a book that took me 1 to 2 hours to read and contained so little new information about Vicar. The book is fine for anyone new to Medjugorje, but if you have read a bit about Vicar, this book is not recommended. A book that takes an hour to read shouldn't be called Her Story. If anyone sees Our Lady for 40 years, to write her story in an hour is not really writing about her story. Very disappointing. Queen of the Cosmos by Janice Connell. This is a 2005 book by Janice Connell, which is exactly like her earlier book I spoke about, but with less questions. It may have given her a chance, given it was 13 years after her original question and answer style of book, to make sure all the answers were accurate. With the use of the internet, it may have been easier for her to find interpreters to make sure the answers the visionaries gave were translated perfectly and accurately. Like her previous interview style of book, it is excellent, interesting all the way through. The questions she asks are always very good, definitely worth reading. The final book is called The People's Madonna by Joan Ashton. This is a 1991 book and an excellent read, still relevant and interesting more than 30 years later. It gives an insight into the history of the region, the scientific tests done on the seers, the links to Fatima, Lourdes and Cabejo, and gives a great early history of the apparitions of Medjugorje for those new to Medjugorje. Probably the most detailed first few weeks of Medjugorje out of any of the books I have reviewed. Definitely worth a read. Thanks for watching. I have probably another 6 to 7 books I will review in part 2 of this video. If there is any further information or questions you would like to ask about any of these books, please put them in the comment section below and I'll get back to you. Thank you.